What would you do if you caught someone trying to kill your disabled child, and that someone was the most powerful person in your neighborhood? My name is Ethan Caldwell, and I'm a retired FBI tactical agent. For 15 years, I took down terrorists, infiltrated crime syndicates, and stared into the eyes of monsters. But nothing prepared me for Margaret Hensley, the HOA president who smiled at barbecues while plotting to destroy my daughter's life. This is the story of how she cut the brakes on my 14-year-old daughter Lily's wheelchair, nearly sent her crashing into traffic, and how I brought her down. 6 months ago, Lily and I moved to Crestwood Heights, a pristine suburban neighborhood in Massachusetts with flawless lawns and houses straight out of a magazine. After losing my wife, Emily, to cancer 2 years earlier, I needed a fresh start. Lily, who has spinal muscular atrophy and uses an electric wheelchair, deserved a safe community with good schools and kind neighbors. She's the bravest person I know, sharp as a tack, a coding genius who can crack systems I'd need a manual to understand. At 14, she's tutoring high school seniors in computer science and taking AP classes. Her teachers say she's a prodigy. I just say she's my world. Our first week in Crestwood was like a dream. Neighbors dropped off pies and casseroles. Mrs. Henderson from down the street brought cookies that made the house smell like a bakery. The Thompsons and invited us to their cookout, and Mr. Clarence, a retired electrician across the street, helped me set up my garage tools. Everyone was warm, welcoming except Margaret Hensley. She didn't bring food or smiles. She brought a 20-page HOA rulebook and a glare that could cut glass. Dressed in a designer blazer, her blonde hair pinned perfectly, she looked like a country club queen. But her eyes were ice as they scanned our MOVYing boxes and the temporary ramp we'd set up for Lily. "Crestwood has standards," she said, her voice syrupy but sharp. "I trust you'll keep that in mind." I nodded, but my gut screamed trouble. In my FBI days, I learned to spot danger in a glance, and Margaret was danger wrapped in perfume and pearls. "We're thrilled to be here," I said, keeping my tone even. She handed me the rulebook, her nails grazing my hand. "That ramp," she said, nodding at the aluminum slope, "will need proper approval. Our architectural committee is particular." The way she said particular felt like a warning. Lily watched from her wheelchair, her sharp eyes catching every word. After Margaret left, she rolled over. "She doesn't like me, does she, Dad?" My heart sank. "She just doesn't know you yet, kiddo. She will." I was dead wrong. The trouble started when I submitted plans for a permanent wheelchair ramp. Our front door had 3 steps impossible for Lily without help. The ramp was sleek, designed to blend with our colonial house, using matching brick and trim. I even added landscaping to make it invisible from the street. 3 days later, the HOA rejected it. Incompatible with neighborhood aesthetics. The letter read cold and final. I requested a meeting with the board. Margaret sat at the head of a polished table, flanked by 4 members who looked like they'd rather be golfing. Only Richard Vance, a smug ex-lawyer, seemed eager, hanging on Margaret's every word. I'd later learn he was more than her ally, he was her partner in crime. "Mr. Caldwell," Margaret began, her voice dripping with fake pity. "We sympathize, but rules are rules. That ramp would lower property values." I took a breath, staying calm. "The Americans with Disabilities Act says reasonable accommodations trump HOA rules. This ramp is non-negotiable." She waved a hand. "The ADA doesn't override our covenant. Other families have managed without ruining the neighborhood's look." Her tone made disabled sound like a slur. I leaned forward. "My daughter has a right to her home. This ramp is happening, legally." Margaret's smile vanished. "Perhaps Crestwood isn't for you," she said, her words a velvet threat. One board member, Sarah Nguyen, spoke up. "I think we should approve it. The design's tasteful." Margaret's glare could have melted steel. "We'll vote," she snapped. Only she and Richard raised their hands, but the minutes later claimed a unanimous denial. When I called it out, Margaret smirked. "As president, I have final say." I built the ramp anyway. The ADA gave me the right. Construction took 2 days, and the HOA's response was instant. Fines hit my mailbox to law 100 a day. Then came legal threats. Margaret called an emergency meeting, passing around photos of ugly ramps from other towns, hinting ours would tank property values. "Do we want Crestwood to look like a hospital?" she asked, her voice sharp. But she misjudged the neighbors. Sarah and Gwyn stood up. "This is about a kid's safety. We're better than this." Clarence, leaning on his cane, added, "I've lived here 30 years. Lily fixed my laptop when my kids couldn't. She's one of us." The room turned against Margaret, her eyes blazing with rage as she stormed out. Then things got darker. One morning, Lily called me at work, her voice shaking. "Dad, the ramp's loose. It wobbles." I raced home from the FBI office and found bolts deliberately loosened just enough to be dangerous. This wasn't an accident. I installed cameras that night, visible ones at the doors, hidden ones on the ramp. My training kicked in: surveil, document, neutralize. Days later, Clarence called. "Check my security footage. I caught something." His grainy video showed a figure in black tampering with our ramp. The shape it was Margaret. I reinforced the ramp and added more cameras but held off confronting her. In the FBI, you don't tip your hand without airtight evidence. I dug into Margaret's past using FBI resources. What I found froze my blood. 5 years ago, she was fired from a corporate job after discriminating against disabled employees. She'd buried the lawsuits with NDAs. A sealed juvenile record showed she'd assaulted a disabled classmate at 17. Margaret wasn't just a control freak, she was a predator targeting people like Lily. Then came the worst day of my life. I was home reviewing files when my hidden camera pinged. The feed showed Margaret in our garage, holding wire cutters, slicing the brake cable on Lily's wheelchair. She taped it to hide the cut. My hands shook with fury, but I stayed calm. I called my FBI boss and Lily's school, telling them to keep her inside. But I'd forgotten about an early dismissal. Lily was already on the bus, heading to our street. I sped home, dialing her phone. No answer. My heart pounded as I scanned the sidewalks. Then I saw Lily's wheelchair hurtling down the steep hill toward Route 28, a busy road with trucks roaring by. Her face was pure terror, her hands yanking at the useless brakes. She was seconds from disaster. I was too far to reach her. Time stopped. Then Sarah and Gwyn, still in her nurse scrubs, sprinted from her car. With perfect timing, she threw herself in Lily's path, grabbing the wheelchair and steering it onto a lawn. They crashed, Lily tumbling out, Sarah taking the hit. I reached them as Sarah checked Lily for injuries. Lily was sobbing, her wrist sprained but alive. "The brakes failed, Dad." I couldn't stop. The cable was snapped clean. Sarah met my eyes. "This was sabotage. Call the police." My voice was ice. "I know who did it." That night, I reviewed my footage, Margaret in the garage, on the ramp, every angle crystal clear. Clarence's video sealed it. I called my FBI team, not officially, but as brothers I trusted. By dawn, we'd uncovered Margaret's pattern: 3 disabled families driven out by accidents, Dula $200,000 embezzled from HOA funds, and Richard Vance covering it up for kickbacks. I requested an emergency HOA meeting, saying I wanted peace. Margaret agreed, probably thinking she'd humiliate me. The community center was packed, neighbors buzzing about Lily's crash. Margaret sat smugly, Richard whispering beside her. She opened with fake concern. "We're all worried about Lily's accident. Perhaps we need better safety measures." Her gall made my blood boil. I stood. "We're here for something else." I plugged in my laptop, the projector humming. 3 days ago, my daughter nearly died when her wheelchair brakes failed. Someone cut them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Margaret's face stayed blank, but Richard squirmed. "This wasn't an accident," I said. "Someone hates that my daughter exists here." I played the garage footage. Margaret's face, clear as day, cutting the cable. The room went silent. That's fake, she stammered, her composure cracking. I played the ramp vy Dale, then Clarence's footage. Outrageous, she shouted, standing. This is manipulated. Richard looked ready to bolt. I nodded to the door, where 2 cops and my FBI super vy Sor walked in. I'm Special Agent Ethan Caldwell, I said. You've just seen Margaret Hensley commit attempted murder. She lunged for the exit, but an officer blocked her. This is insane, she screamed. You don't know who I am. Her mask was gone, revealing raw hatred. People like your kid ruined this place. The room froze at her venom. I clicked to her juvenile record and firing details. I know exactly who you area bully who'd kill a child over a ramp. Chaos erupted. Richard tried to slip out, but Clarence blocked him. Neighbors formed a human wall. As cops cuffed Margaret, she hissed. You'll pay for this. Your kind doesn't belong. I stepped close. My daughter's worth 1,000 of you. Everyone sees you now. Margaret was charged with attempted murder, assault, property damage, and CIVYL rights violations. The embezzlement surfaced, along with her history of targeting disabled residents. Richard turned state's EVY Denke, exposing her schemes. The trial was a media storm. Lily testified, her voice steady. I thought I'd die, and my dad would blame himself. Margaret got 15 years, glaring at me as she was led away, unrepentant. Crestwood changed. Sarah became HOA president, passing accessibility rules. Lily joined an inclusion committee, and ramps sprouted across the neighborhood. A year later, Lily spoke at our first inclusion day, standing tall from her ramp. The real structures we build are compassion and belonging, she said. I've never been prouder. Lily's now 16, developing accessibility apps and headed to MIT. I stayed in Crestwood, advocating for disability rights at the FBI. Clarence and I tinker with cars. Sarah brings curry and laughter. Margaret thought she'd break us. Instead, she united a community against hate. EVYL hides in rulebooks and smiles, but justice sees through it. If you've faced a Margaret, hold fast. Justice comes sometimes from the quiet dad next door, fighting harder than anyone knows. What would you have done? Share your story, I am listening.